In July of 1863, the prosperous crossroads town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, would become known as the site of one of the bloodiest battles ever fought on American soil. The fate of a divided nation was decided here over the span of 3 long days. Robert E. Lee and the rebel Confederate Army were confident after a great Confederate victory in Chancellorsville, Virginia, and had decided that it was time to march into the North for the second time. Lee needed to prove to France and Great Britain that the Confederacy could stand alone as its own nation to gain their support. This invasion of the North was more political than military. July 1st, 1863. Confederate and Union forces collide near Gettysburg. Union General John Buford's cavalry fall back to Cemetery Hill, a strong position for the Union forces. Confederate General Buell decides not to attack for the high ground, a fateful decision for the Confederate forces. July 2nd. Lee commands an attack on both flanks of the Union's reinforced line, going from Little Round Top to Cemetery Hill. The battle quickly grew fierce. The Union scrambled to hold their positions and not give way before Confederate forces. Bloody fights wore down troops in Wheatfield and Devil's Den. A battalion from Maine heroically defended Little Round Top from the Confederate forces. The Confederate forces failed to break the Union line before dusk. July 3rd. Robert E. Lee decides to make a move. Believing that his army was moments before victory the day previous, he decided to make a charge at the center of Union General George G. Meade's line of defense. Lee ordered 12,000 men to charge into the teeth of Union defenses on Cemetery Ridge. This would prove a fatal mistake for the rebels. Lee would lose almost half of his troops, and about 2/3 of the 12,000 troops would be casualties. After this great loss, Lee was forced to retreat back to the south. Over 50,000 casualties. The Union triumphed at a terrible cost. This battle would prove to be a crucial turning point in the war and in the history of the United States. This battle would also inspire one of the most moving speeches ever heard, Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is together fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it. Far above our poor power to add or detract, the world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall have not died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Abraham Lincoln.